Researchers gave testosterone to more than 5,000 men, expecting to see fewer broken bones. Testosterone builds bone density. That has been known for years, and it has been measured repeatedly. So when they ran the largest trial ever done on this question, they expected the fracture rate to fall. It went up. Not dramatically, and the researchers were careful about how they described it, but it was higher in the men who received testosterone than in the men who received placebo. And when the paper was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in January 2024, the authors admitted they could not explain it. Neither could the editorialists who reviewed it. I am starting there because it tells you something important about this entire subject. Testosterone is not a simple story. It is not the miracle the clinics advertise, and it is not the danger it was described as 10 years ago. It is a real medication with real indications, real benefits in specific circumstances, and real risks. So today I'm going to give you the honest version. I'm going to walk you through the largest trial ever conducted, including the results that made headlines and the results that did not. I am going to explain who genuinely benefits, because some men do. I am going to explain the diagnostic mistake that sends thousands of men to clinics every year for a problem they do not have. And I am going to tell you the one consequence that can be permanent, which almost nobody mentions in the advertising. Let me start with the trial. It is called TRAVERSE, and it exists because of a regulatory demand. In 2015, the Food and Drug Administration required manufacturers of testosterone products to conduct proper safety studies after years of argument about whether these drugs caused heart attacks. So the manufacturers funded a trial, and I mention that funding because it is relevant when weighing results. TRAVERSE enrolled 5,246 men aged 45 to 80. Every one of them had a testosterone level below 300 nanograms per deciliter with a median around 227. Every one of them had either established cardiovascular disease or multiple risk factors for it. Half received testosterone gel, half received placebo gel, and they were followed for a median of just over 3 years. Here's the headline result. The primary measure was major adverse cardiac events, meaning death from cardiovascular causes, non-fatal heart attack, or non-fatal stroke. That occurred in 7% of the testosterone group and 7.3% of the placebo group. Testosterone was found to be non-inferior to placebo. That result was reported worldwide as testosterone being safe for the heart. And for that specific measure, in that specific population, it is a fair reading. Now let me tell you what else was in the paper. 3 adverse events occurred significantly more often in the testosterone group. Atrial fibrillation in 3.5% versus 2.4%. Acute kidney injury in 2.3% versus 1.5%, and pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in the lungs, in 0.9% versus 0.5%. The investigators wrote that the arrhythmias and kidney injury were not expected, and they concluded that their findings support existing guidance that testosterone should be used with caution in men who have previously had a blood clot. Now, I want you to notice something about that atrial fibrillation figure. Atrial fibrillation is not a minor finding in a man over 60. It is the most common sustained heart rhythm disturbance, and it substantially raises the risk of stroke. So the honest summary of TRAVERSE is not that testosterone is safe. It is that testosterone did not increase heart attacks and strokes in this population, while it did increase 3 other things. There is one more detail from that trial that rarely gets mentioned, and I think it matters. Roughly 61% of men in both groups stopped taking their assigned treatment before the end of the study. That is a very high discontinuation rate. It cuts both ways. It may cause the trial to underestimate harms, and it may equally cause it to underestimate benefits. But it is worth knowing that in a carefully monitored trial, most men did not stay on it. Now back to the fractures, because that substudy deserves proper attention. 5,204 men, median follow-up of just over 3 years, with every fracture centrally reviewed. Testosterone treatment did not reduce fractures. The incidence was numerically higher in the testosterone group. Here is why that is genuinely interesting. Earlier research had shown that testosterone improves bone mineral density and estimated bone strength. Those measurements went in the right direction. The fractures did not follow. The authors speculated that testosterone might have detrimental effects on cortical bone, which is the dense outer layer, even while improving other measures. An accompanying editorial wondered whether men on testosterone simply became more physically active and therefore fell more. But the participants were blinded, so they did not know which group they were in. And the trial did not track falls or activity, so nobody can say. This is a very good example of something I try to explain often on this channel. A test result moving in the right direction is not the same as an outcome improving. Bone density is a surrogate marker. A broken hip is an outcome. They are not the same thing, and here they pointed in opposite directions. If this is useful to you, tell me in the comments whether you have ever been offered a testosterone test. I read everyone. Now, who genuinely benefits? Because some men do, and I do not want this video to talk anyone out of legitimate treatment. There is a set of earlier studies known as the testosterone trials conducted in older men with low levels. Those trials found that testosterone treatment improved sexual function, improved mood, and raised hemoglobin levels. A substudy of Traverse also found that testosterone corrected anemia in men who had it. And the prostate safety substudy, published in JAMA Network Open, was broadly reassuring about prostate events over the trial period. So the picture is this. In men with genuinely low testosterone and genuine symptoms, treatment produces modest improvements in sexual function, in mood, and in anemia. Modest is the operative word. These are real effects. They are not transformation. They are not what a billboard promises. Now, the diagnostic problem, and this is where most of the harm happens. There is a whole industry built on a phrase. Low T. The pitch is familiar. You are tired. Your libido has fallen. You have gained weight around the middle. You do not feel like yourself. Every one of those symptoms is real, and I am not dismissing any man who feels them. But here is the difficulty. Those symptoms are almost perfectly non-specific. Let me list what else produces exactly that picture in a man in his 60s. Obstructive sleep apnea, which is extremely common, badly underdiagnosed, and causes profound fatigue and low libido. Depression, which in older men frequently presents as fatigue and loss of interest rather than sadness. Underactive thyroid, anemia, poorly controlled diabetes, chronic kidney disease, medication side effects, particularly from beta blockers, certain antidepressants, and opioids, and simple chronic sleep deprivation. Every one of those is common. Every one of those is treatable, and every one of those is missed if a clinic measures one hormone and writes a prescription. So what does a proper diagnosis actually require? Two things together: symptoms consistent with testosterone deficiency and confirmed low testosterone measured on at least 2 separate occasions. And the timing matters because testosterone follows a daily rhythm and is highest in the morning. The blood test should be taken in the morning, ideally fasting, and a single low reading is not enough. Levels fluctuate and acute illness can suppress them temporarily. Now, here is the part that separates good medicine from the clinic model. If testosterone is genuinely low, the next question is why? Because low testosterone is frequently a consequence of something else, and treating the cause is better than replacing the hormone. Obesity lowers testosterone, and weight loss raises it. Untreated sleep apnea lowers it, and treating the apnea raises it. Long-term opioid use suppresses it substantially. Some medications suppress it. And in a small number of cases, there is a pituitary problem that needs investigating in its own right. A man who is told his testosterone is low and handed a gel without anyone asking why has been sold a product rather than given a diagnosis. Now, the permanent consequence I mentioned at the start. When you take testosterone from outside, your brain detects that levels are adequate and stops signaling your testes to produce it. Production shuts down. That has 2 consequences. The first is fertility, which matters less to most of this audience, but genuinely matters to some. Testosterone therapy suppresses sperm production, often to 0, and recovery after stopping is not guaranteed. Any man who might want to father a child should not be started on testosterone without that being discussed, and there are alternative treatments that do not have this effect. The second consequence applies to everyone. For many men, this becomes a long-term or lifelong commitment because natural production does not necessarily return to its previous level after stopping. That is a very different proposition from trying something for 3 months to see how you feel, and it is rarely presented that way in advertising. There is also monitoring involved, and it is not optional. Testosterone raises the red blood cell count, and in some men, it raises it enough to thicken the blood, which is called polycythemia, and increases clot risk. That needs periodic blood testing. Prostate monitoring is standard. And given the Travers findings, kidney function and rhythm are reasonable things to watch as well. 3 honest statements before I close. Travers studied men with existing cardiovascular disease or high risk, so its findings may not translate directly to a healthy man with no risk factors. The trial was funded by manufacturers, which does not invalidate it but is worth knowing. And this video is education, not medical advice. I am a physician, but I am not your physician. And if you are on prescribed testosterone under proper supervision, do not stop it because of this video. Now, the things that need attention. If you are on testosterone and develop swelling, pain, or redness in one leg, or sudden breathlessness or chest pain, that could be a clot and needs emergency assessment. Palpitations or an irregular pulse are worth reporting given the atrial fibrillation signal. Worsening snoring or daytime sleepiness, because testosterone can worsen sleep apnea. And if you are considering treatment, the questions to ask are these. Have my levels been checked twice in the morning? Have we looked for a cause? Have sleep apnea, thyroid, depression, and anemia been ruled out? What are we hoping to improve? And how will we know if it worked? And how long am I expected to stay on this? If a clinic cannot answer those 5 questions, that tells you what kind of clinic it is. Let me finish with the point of all this. The reason I opened with the fracture result is that it is the perfect illustration of why you should be skeptical of confident claims in this area. The researchers had good reason to expect fewer fractures. The bone density data supported it. The mechanism made sense, and when they finally ran a trial large enough to answer the question properly, the result went the other way, and nobody can explain why. That is what honest medicine looks like. If you have real symptoms and genuinely low levels, confirmed properly, with the underlying causes investigated, testosterone is a legitimate treatment with modest and real benefits. If you are 68 and tired, and a clinic has offered to check your levels for free, please consider that your fatigue is far more likely to be sleep apnea, or your medication, or your mood, than your hormones. And those are all treatable too. Tell me in the comments whether you have ever been screened for sleep apnea. I ask because in my experience, it is one of the most common, genuine causes of exactly the symptoms that get sold as low testosterone, and it is one of the most commonly missed conditions in men over 60. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.